Oh, it's you. Come on in. Welcome to the Scum Bar. Welcome to the Scum Bar Podcast Marvel Movie Marathon, where we go through the 22 films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, starting with Iron Man donning his first suit and ending with Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet. We will talk Iron Man, Captain America, General Ross, and everything in between. I am your host, Captain Mattbrush, and with me today is the big green machine himself.
Anth0z.
He does kind of sound a little like evil in this one, doesn't he?
I guess a little bit, yeah.
I mean, it's
I think
like
he has
dumb-sounding Hulk, but this is more just like, I don't know, almost like villainous Hulk.
It's like grunty Hulk, and
Yeah.
then in the later movies we get with Mark Ruffalo, it's more like he's a tonal Hulk.
For sure. Just a quick warning to all others, the Scumbar podcast will contain spoilers for this movie and the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Also, if you enjoy the Scumbar podcast, be sure to leave us a like, subscribe, or comment on any of your favorite podcasting platforms. This week, for our Marvel Movie Marathon, we're talking about 2008's The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton, Liv Tyler, Tim Roth, and William Hurt. It's known as the Black Sheep Marvel film as it does not connect much to the Avengers, and Edward Norton quickly declined returning as Bruce Banner afterwards. It also is the only Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 1 film in which Nick Fury does not appear. He's not
But his name was in it.
His name was referenced,
Yeah.
but he does not appear. We see no Sam Jacksonial.
Nope.
Nope. Anth0z, why don't you just give the audience a quick, brief synopsis of the film?
Okay. Well. After. I was gonna try to go for just doing the whole synopsis with that voice, but there's no way I could last,
no way.
and there's no way the audience could last either. Anyway. After surviving a deadly gamma radiation accident, scientist Bruce Banner travels the world in search for a cure to his inner force of rage that turns him into a massive green monster known as the Hulk. Though he is close, Banner must watch out because the malevolent General Ross and his team are searching for him and want to use his condition for military weaponry. Running out of time and options, Banner turns to his old flame, Betty Ross, for help. Meanwhile, a new threat rises as a power-hungry soldier turns into a deadlier and more terrifying beast that can match even the Hulk's powers.
Terrifying and deadly's kind of right. My fiance was
Yeah.
kind of disgusted by him. She's never seen this film, so this was kind of fun for her. But she was disgusted by his look.
Yeah, I think they did a good job making him very hard to look at. He does his appearance lives up to the name Abomination.
Abomination, yeah.
Yeah. It's a great association.
This was weird going back to this film. I think I saw this in theaters and then never saw it again. So I forgot most of this movie. There's little things. Like, I knew he made a joke about the purple pants, and I knew he made a joke about you wouldn't like me when I'm hungry. I kind of knew that joke was coming.
Right.
But other than that, I was like, I forgot most of it. So it was jarring just to kind of like come back into this Hulk environment and be like, I don't know, just this like pre-Marvel is larger than life era, you know? It was a weird time.
Especially after getting used to the Mark Ruffalo versions, because we've seen more of him and we've seen him more recently. So yeah, having to go back all the way to the Edward Norton version. I actually didn't watch it in theaters. I don't even think I watched the Eric Bana version in theaters either.
Oh yeah.
I might have just caught them when they showed up on cable one day or something. But I think I almost avoided the Edward Norton one because I thought it came too soon after the Eric Bana one, and it didn't make sense to me for them to already reboot it. So I think in my own way I was like personally boycotting, so I didn't watch. But
apparently on set they were calling it a requel because it was like a reboot sequel. Because they were saying that it actually is sort of, at that time, it was sort of a sequel to the Ang Lee one from 2003. So it was in a weird way a sequel to it because it still works in the storyline to that movie, but it is like a reboot anyways because it's new actors and actresses. So.
Okay. Yeah, because I was gonna say that. I mean, it seems like it was trying to be an origin story without. No, it was it was not an origin story, but at the same time, it was still a bit of an origin story, if you know what I mean. Because
it really felt like he didn't know much about his powers.
Yeah, and yet, like, he had already... what I mean by origin story, as in usually the audience gets to journey with the character before they become whatever it is that they're going to become. And for us, like, that was pretty much just right in the intro in the intro credits. It's just a whole bunch of like cutscenes and little flashes of stuff, and we just get to see that he already is the Hulk. So it's kind of... I'm gonna mention this later, but I feel like because of that direction, I feel like the whole reveal aspect of when he finally, like, almost like debuts as the Hulk in some sort of impactful scene, it's so diminished, especially compared to watching something like Iron Man.
Yes.
Even though when we first see him, Tony Stark, in his Iron Man Mark 1 outfit, it's not the one we're going to see later, but it's still a much better reveal to his his superhero persona. Yeah.
In fact, even maybe to compare it again to Iron Man, the reveal of the Iron Man Mark 1 suit in the Iron Man movie, it's not super great. They did a lot of those hidden kind of shots and stuff, and this Hulk movie kind of felt like it was almost like that. It was underwhelming like that a little bit for like the whole movie, unfortunately. Every time they tried to make the reveal, it was almost like that. It just didn't... Something felt off. And that's kind of going to be the theme of this podcast, is this movie. It was weird for me. So when I saw this in theaters, this movie was... it came out right after Iron Man. It was like... It was in the summer, let's say, and Iron Man was like late spring. So it was not that far after. And I remember watching it, and we all knew that it was going to be part of the whole Marvel thing at that time. And I remember I saw it, and for some reason my mind compared it to Iron Man so much, and I loved it. I loved it way more than Iron Man. I remember saying this movie was way better as a superhero film than Iron Man, and at that time I was saying the acting was better in Incredible Hulk than in Iron Man. Mm-hmm. And it's funny now, comparing them directly again, just going back from Iron Man to the Incredible Hulk, it's like, oh my god, it's so jarring. This movie does not hold up to me anymore at all. It's so odd compared to the rest of the Marvel movies, while the first Iron Man at least still holds up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a big gap in in the direction of the movie, and yeah, I was trying to think about how it would fit in with a lot of with the rest of the MCU, and it just seemed like... I actually thought it was kind of funny that there were some moments in this movie that I feel like they tried to reference, or they did reference in later movies, but they did it almost to like either laugh at what they did with this Hulk, the 2008 Hulk, or just erase it from people's memories.
For sure.
So it was interesting to watch it now, also because, you know, we're at least for the episode we want to analyze it a bit more, dissect it a bit more. So I thought I could get into it a little bit more like I did for Iron Man, but for this one, it was I kind of found myself like, I missed something. Do I want to go back? Do I really care?
Yeah, I mean, for Iron Man, I actually watched that movie twice, and that was easy. But for this one, I watched it once, and then I watched like 3 different recaps on YouTube just to get like some things I might have missed out on, and just to kind of get back into it. But I was like, God, I cannot sit and watch that again. Like, I didn't have any want to watch this movie again. So yeah, so I had to get like character names and stuff like that from a recap, because I just, man, from that first watch, I was like, it just kind of went by. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely not a bad movie. We'll go into it with our act structure like we did with Iron Man as well, and we'll get into some of it, but it's just, I'll try to describe it as best I can in my own terms of why I thought it was maybe just not as good as Iron Man, or most of the Marvel movies we'll see later on in this marathon. Yeah. Before we go into with the Act 1 and our 3-act structure, do you got anything else you want to say about it?
I think just the way that the first half of the movie took place, I couldn't help but see it as like a Bourne Identity movie.
Oh, I know. It's like it's trying to be some other genre that it's not.
It really,
it's so weird.
That's exactly.
Bourne Identity is a good call, actually. That's a very good movie to reference that they're trying to be like, or like some kind of like Mission Impossible almost, or something like just something like a spy secret agent kind of thing.
Yeah, the whole Well, okay, we'll get into it.
We'll get into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Act 1, which I like to call Hulk versus Blonsky Classic.
What did I call? I also titled mine. I titled the first act "The Hulk Identity."
I love it. Now, the 3-act structure, I don't know how you broke it down. Actually, I didn't mention this before, but the way I broke it down was literally, I just said that the movie does it for you because Blonsky is the 3-act structure. So his character like evolves with the 3 acts.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah.
So you can just kind of follow him, and every time he's transitioning into his next form is just the next act coming into the movie. So it's a more obvious 3-act structure, I think, in this movie than other movies. So
right. Okay. I think I had somewhat similar, but I didn't think too much about like separating what the acts were. I kind of just focused more on like, okay, what is actually happening in this movie? Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
Don't make me hungry. You wouldn't like me when I'm hungry.
There's not many to choose from in this movie, so we have to find the best lines we can get. All right, so in this, we're treated to our favorite Bruce Banner working in a factory in, where is he in? He's in some place. I can't remember.
I already forgot. It's
like
Guatemala. He ends up going to Guatemala after.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say Costa Rica or something, but I honestly can't remember at the moment.
Or is it in Brazil? Or
I don't know. I can't remember at the moment. It doesn't really matter. He's just
not
kind
in America.
He's not in America, and he's working abroad, and he's in some kind of factory. It's a really weird look for Bruce Banner. It's they did a lot of things where he's like learning Portuguese. Obviously, he's like he's in Portugal. Is he in Portugal? He's learning Portuguese.
Oh, maybe that's why I thought Brazil, because in Brazil they speak Portuguese.
Oh, okay. Portuguese.
Something.
So he's like reading books and stuff and trying to learn language. This guy's supposed to be a genius in my opinion, and it's taking him a long time to learn the language, and he's also screwing up on words. It's really weird. It's a weird take for a so-called genius. And also just weird things like he nicks his finger and it does this weird like blood transition thing where the blood's falling down onto a bottle. And it seemed very 90s to me. It seemed very like old movie kind of moment there. We're watching this globule of blood just kind of fall onto a bottle. And I was thinking at the moment, I was like, oh, this is going to create the villain. I was like, this is definitely going to create the villain. Just this one stupid thing. Like,
exactly.
It
seems like it's supposed to, right?
It was like a Venom thing almost, like from back in the day. It was like watching the old Spider-Man cartoon or something. Like,
yeah. No, I think I got that same vibe. I was actually just picturing... in the way that it drops down and we're not sure what's going to happen. It's almost like when as the radioactive spider is coming down from its web and just about to bite Peter.
Yeah,
I don't know, it was something kind of like that. And yeah, this whole intro, I thought, and I think this is why I thought it was so Bourne Identity-esque. It's because he's like, we start the movie with him already in hideout
in a foreign country.
He has like a set of skills, or he has some like secrets to him, and he's trying his best to just conceal himself. He's trying to hide away. Like, he knows exactly he has to be hidden away from certain eyes.
I like that he can fix the guy's machinery because they're trying to make him seem like a genius, but also he kind of just looks like a tradesman by being able to fix the machinery. It wasn't
he's more like a mechanic.
Yeah, it wasn't something like a genius could figure out. It was just something that somebody who can work with machines could figure out. So I was like, I don't know what they're trying to say. Although, I must admit, I love the breathing technique guy. He's learning that breathing technique from that one dude. He's trying to breathe correctly, and then the dude slaps him kind of thing, and he's trying to like contain it. I love all that, and I think that they really could have played that stuff out better. I think that's where Edward Norton can shine in this movie, and he's a very good actor. I just think so much of this movie misses the mark that it just makes him look foolish a lot of the time. But there are some moments, like when he's doing the breathing, where I'm like, okay, this is a cool movie here. But then they just cut to something really stupid, like the blood thing, and then him looking in bottles and missing the one bottle of blood that looked so obvious.
That was so obvious, and then, yeah. Actually, I like that you bring up the breathing aspect. My sequence of thought leading up to that was obviously like, oh, this is a Bourne Identity movie. What's going on? And then he ends up in the dojo, and I'm like, oh, it's actually the Matrix. He's being taught by Morpheus now. Like, what is going on? But anyway, I just thinking about it now, in the way that he was trying to work on, well, I mean, he's there to really control his anger, right? That's why he's learning the breathing techniques. And I just thought that, later on, and sorry to refer back or forward to is it Endgame? Yeah, Endgame, when he meets the Grandmaster.
Oh yeah.
Played by Tilda Swinton. And so I think that's the only interaction that we'd ever get from those two, which it seemed like we would never have had the need to see those two in a scene together throughout the whole MCU. But thinking about it now, if they didn't take the time this time around to in the Incredible Hulk to get him to learn some of those skills from this guy in Portugal, it would have been a great scene to see that from him in that same scenario, learning this from the Grand Master.
That's
later
a good point.
on.
I never thought about that.
That would have been
that
so
kind of
cool.
culture. That would have been great for him to be learning that kind of stuff. Yeah, you're right. Actually, there's actually a really interesting idea there, almost, where you make like a Hulk Doctor Strange film or something, or just even a Hulk film, but it takes place with some of the Doctor Strange universe there. That would be actually kind of interesting. But yeah,
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Should exactly. At that time, I think they were trying to make this movie stand out on its own. I've got a few little factoids about this movie that kind of, in my opinion, show why it's so weird. One of them is just a really interesting thing here. I had no idea, but this guy, Louis Leterrier, I don't really know if that's his name correctly. He originally wanted Mark Ruffalo for the role of Bruce Banner, but they instead went with Edward Norton. I had no idea that Mark Ruffalo was originally intended to play him in this movie.
Cool.
So I guess there was almost a moment there where we didn't have to worry about the oddness there.
So he was director and producer for Incredible Hulk, or was he?
I don't actually know.
Let's see. Oh, he was director.
Just director. Okay.
I'm not sure if maybe he was producer, but he was at least director for that.
Yeah. There's another weird thing is that Edward Norton actually did a lot of the writing for this film, to the point where they actually one of the writers they credited with a fake name. It was like Edward Williams or something.
Oh.
Then they eventually removed it because of copyright things, so they didn't want to admit that Edward Norton had wrote a lot for this movie, but he did. He apparently on set was like changing the lines for different characters and stuff, and he like did a lot of the writing. Now that to me sounds like an Edward Norton thing where he just takes over a set. He actually directed a scene because the director was like busy or something, so Edward Norton just directed. So it's a little weird.
Okay.
He kind of took over this movie, maybe to the detriment of the film. I don't know, but
well, yeah, that'd be hard to say. But before this, he already had built up a pretty good repertoire of being in film, right? So
for sure.
I could give him that. Like, he probably has some good experience and good insight, but
and some of the dialogue in this movie is awful. Like, the writing is awful. So maybe he saw it and went, I can make this better. Or the awful dialogue is something he wrote. I can't tell. It's one or the other, but I would like to believe that he was trying to fix what was an awful movie and he made it decent. I'd like to think that.
We'll go with that.
So there's a whole days without incident thing in this movie where they have a countdown talking about like when he's last had his incident and stuff. It's like days since the last incident.
Yeah.
And at first it's like, okay, like it seems sort of interesting, but they keep flashing it in this movie like it's a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's never been a big deal.
No, it's not a big deal at all.
There's even a moment where I feel like they got it wrong, because it goes from days without incident. It goes from this large number all the way down to 1. Doesn't go to 0. It goes to 1. And I was like, shouldn't it be 0? like it should be 0 days without incident because he just had an incident. But it goes to 1 as if a full day had passed without an incident. But I was like, I don't think a full day's passed yet.
I guess maybe was it?
I don't know if they got it wrong or if he slept as Bruce Banner for a full day before they showed this scene. Maybe.
Well, okay, so that's the thing with him and his transformations in this that I'm sure we don't get in the later movies, but every time, and I think we saw him Hulk out maybe 3 or 4 times, something like that, and I think 4 times. So
I think it's 4, yeah.
And other than in the end, pretty much like every time he does Hulk out, he's like he goes through like withdrawal. He's just totally out of it.
Yeah.
He needs to sleep like forever. And we don't.
Yeah, he does seem
that's not like a thing at all in the later movies. So that, like, for me, that's why it's such a weird movie to include as part of the MCU, because they used the character, but they didn't utilize some pretty, at least what I find to be pretty noticeable elements of his character. So, yeah, it's, I don't know. It is just kind of odd. I don't have too much more to say about the first act, except for that Bruce Banner does not seem like a genius in this movie. He just seems like, actually, I like how you said Bourne Identity. He seems like he's an action film star in this movie, especially when he's running on the rooftops from the SWAT team. And he's just kind of like running from rooftop to rooftop and doing all these jumps and stuff like that. My fiance's like, does he have any other powers? And I was like, no, he's just a regular guy. And she's like, well, what if he gets shot? And I was like, well, if he got shot, he'd probably just turn to the Hulk right away, right? Like, I think they address that later on when the Hulk says, I tried to shoot a bullet or put a bullet in my mouth, and the green guy spat it out. So he said he literally tried to shoot himself, right? Yeah.
So he can't die, I don't think. But the thing is, it's like when he's running on those rooftops, they make it like an action movie. But in my opinion, Bruce Banner should be very nerdy. He should be very scientific and nerdy and like not action heavy at all. And like that's the contrast. It's very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. It's very what's another one? I don't know. It's very like contained. Like they should be opposites, like a yin and yang, right? So that you've got two different characteristics to these people. But no, they've got him trying to be like an action hero. I just don't like that. That's not what I would want out of Bruce Banner.
Yeah, and then I think part of why, well, for me this is still in the first act, but when General Ross recruits Emil Blonsky, is this in Act 1 for you?
Oh,
or is that,
yeah.
that, okay, yeah. So yeah, when he does that, it, I mean, yes, he's doing it because he needs him as a commando to take down Bruce as the Hulk, not Bruce as Bruce. But the thing is, you know, we've mostly seen Bruce as Bruce. And so that's why even more so I'm still getting the Hulk identity thing, because they're hiring this commando to take down pretty much what we see as a man at this point.
That man stole government property or whatever, and you know, it's like you have to get this man because he stole the government secrets, you know, and take him down. That's all Blonsky wants to do. Yeah, it's a little, it does. It's a little spy thriller-y, I guess. William Hurt as what's his face? Well, I forget his name right now.
Ooh, wait.
Ross.
Oh, General Ross, yeah.
Yeah, General Ross. William Hurt is him. I gotta say, I'm not saying he's a good character. He's a decent actor. I don't think he's a good character, but in this movie, he sells it for me only because I don't think his character can really do much else except for yell and try to get the Hulk hurt, you know? Yeah. So I'm not really bothered by his performance throughout this whole movie. I think he's generally okay. No pun intended.
Yeah.
But apparently the actor said that he based his performance on Captain Ahab in Moby Dick, and I'm like, that's so weird. Like, you thought that much through on your character? Like, he's literally just the guy that yells at the Hulk. Like,
interesting.
But he's like, because the Ahab like chasing the whale, and it makes me think like these actors all had like decent things to their characters that they wanted maybe, but that did not come across at all to me. Like there wasn't nothing more deep to his character at all, because it's just a bunch of stupid plot movie stuff that happens that doesn't seem like a really character-driven movie. All the characters in this movie seem very two-dimensional, and General Ross does as well. It's just that he doesn't bother me as much as the others do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe those kind of characteristics, like for the actors, could have played out a little bit better in a different concept or a different movie, like different MCU movie. But I think that's kind of difficult to say at this point. But yeah, no, I agree. General Ross didn't. I was fine with his character as well. It was pretty straightforward as the typical like head honcho commando who sticks to his military his military compass, and does what he thinks is the best way to protect his daughter. That kind of stuff.
Not much more. And Blonsky as well, he's kind of just one-dimensional almost, very not even two-dimensional. Like he doesn't really have much we don't know much about him. He's just a weirdo. He just is weird. Like his character's just kind of a tracker. And what do we know about Blonsky? You know, like,
well, we know that he's supposed to be really good
at tracking.
But then like we don't get.
We get
it's not like there was
him.
We don't get I mean later on we get a little bit of sense of like, oh, he's keen on the super soldier serum thing, but even then, like, I don't think there's enough inkling of he is seeking power. Which is what he ends up wanting in the end.
He's just evil for being evil. Like there's no reason to like him. And a weird example, but I've been going through Clone Wars recently just because I'm trying to get ready for us to do a Clone Wars episode. And you know, like Darth Maul in that series is very good because there's a lot of motivation behind that character. So you get this kind of understanding evil or understanding a bad guy, and that makes a good bad guy. But they just didn't get that in this movie at all. So their bad guys just do bad things so the good guy can fight the bad guy. That's not enough. Like, we need so much more than that.
Yeah.
I like his like the classic dumb bad guy in this movie.
I think what I like about his character, I think that what suits him is his arrogance. Just thinking he could take down whatever until he sees the Hulk, and then he gets the serum, and then now he thinks he's like, invincible all over again. And I think that kind of suits him, but then it does kind of get a little bit repetitive.
Well, that actor, Tim Roth, he's only in this movie because the director was a big fan of him. So he just said, like, I want Tim Roth as my villain. But I wonder if that director even thought, like, does it make sense? Because I'm going to throw something out here. Imagine if Abomination, is that his name? Yeah.
Yep.
Imagine if it was a UFC fighter that was an actor. You know, it doesn't have to be a good actor. He could just be someone who's maybe a bit bulkier, and we understand he's someone who wants power. He's big, he's buff, and he just wants
Rock.
to destroy, right? Yeah. Well, The Rock probably would have costed too much. So.
Yeah.
I think you need what's his face? That one guy that everybody loves. John Cena. But yeah, you have somebody come in like that who was bigger and bulkier, and I think that would have made more sense because visually he would have looked power hungry, and then he would have been like this big tank kind of thing coming in, and then if he had the Hulk stuff come in for Abomination, we would have understood a little bit more of that threat, that whole like, I don't know, it would have made more sense to me that he's this big hulking figure versus the Hulk. And we would have had a bit more sympathy for the Hulk. But just Tim Roth seems so weird. Like, the director even said, like, I just wanted to get a Cockney guy in there. Like, a Cockney boy becoming a superhero is, like, what he said. And I was like, so you just want a British guy in there because you like him? Like, I don't know. It just seems weird. Like, a lot of the choices were weird in this.
It's just, it's definitive that the bad guy has to have an English accent. That's how it works in the movies.
I think this is also a classic case of before Marvel was big, these movies were trying to kind of be independent. They were trying to be their own, and there was no cohesiveness between let's make a bunch of Marvel movies. Obviously, they didn't realize they were actually going to be able to make it to Avengers 1, 2, and 3 and have all these movies connect in. Mm-hmm. But it's a shame because there's a lot of weird choices that were made.
No, I feel like they probably did, didn't they, when they started writing these?
Because I think they were trying for this, obviously. There's a lot of references to the whole Marvel universe, but I don't think that they... Like, at this time, they couldn't have known that they were going to be as big as they were. And, so there was no Kevin Feige coming in and being able to like cohesively be like, hey, you can make this movie, but you need to throw in a Fantastic Four reference, or you have to throw in like a Avengers reference or something like that. Like, I don't think there was much of that yet, as much as there is in the new movies where they're like, hey, you have to introduce this one person because he's going to have his own movie in this, in 2 more years or something, right? So,
well, I kind of think that they probably, like, you're right that they probably didn't expect to be as big as they are now, but I feel like the skeleton that they must have played out was, I feel like that was still fairly set, like knowing that they were going to introduce characters and then lead to this whole Avengers, like being like doing the whole group thing, because I think from a standpoint of like trying not to give out, like try not to play your best cards right away, right. Is why the whole Avengers thing only came out in post-credit scenes, and I think there were enough references within the movies to tease you about upcoming characters. So, for example, when General Ross is talking to Blonsky about the super soldier serum, right. that he says that it was in World War II when they started to make that program, and which was when that's around the time when Captain America is born when his character becomes Captain America, right? And that's because of super soldier serum. So I feel like they implanted that there because they wanted people to realize that after the Hulk, there's still going to be more Marvel characters that are going to be, or there will be more important characters or facts that we'll find out about later on. Right. And then, I mean, like they're just tidbits, right? But I feel like it was enough to say that they probably planned a good deal in terms of where they wanted to go, but execution for each movie was probably the issue in making it seem like it wasn't well thought out, just because, we went from Iron Man, which was such a great start for the whole franchise, and then we hit the Hulk right after, which is like, what is this? Like, this was so discombobulated compared to what we just watched. For sure. So does that mean... like, I guess because that flow was broken, it kind of makes it seem like they didn't really have all their ducks in a row, but I don't know. And you know what? No, maybe because now I'm thinking we're gonna watch Iron Man 2 next, and I'm just thinking about the sequence of the first kind of set of movies, and it's not like they necessarily get better. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that too, because my fiance was actually, she was like, oh, so they're talking about the super soldier serum. She's like, this is before Captain America? And I was like, no. So Captain America's in World War II. And she's like, oh, right. She's like, okay, yeah. And then she's like trying to figure it out. So then she's like, oh, I hate that we're watching these in this order. Like, she really wished that we were watching these in the order of, like, how they're supposed to be, I guess. Like, like placed in the other order kind of thing. Yeah. And I was just like, I guess so. I was like, but I like the fact that we're watching them, like, how they released. But.
Right. Sorry, I just want to mention, that reminds me. There's this guy on Twitter. I can't remember what his name is, but he's something like the Lonely Nerd, or I don't know. And he put together a whole timeline of, if you watch the whole MCU movies, like I think 23, so including Far From Home. So he puts the timestamps of every scene in chronological order.
Wow.
And so I think it probably opens up with actually like Thor or something like that. And then let me find it. I'm going to show it to you.
That's crazy.
I think it was it is pretty crazy if you really think about it. Like,
I remember I saw somewhere somebody had built like the ultimate timeline or something like that to go through it all, and they included like Shield episodes and stuff.
Wait, sorry, say that again?
I remember I saw someone somewhere, this was years ago, had created like the ultimate timeline to be able to watch all the Marvel movies, and I included Shield episodes and things in it. Oh, included
Shield.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, so where are you? I'm going to message you right here. So I'm just going to read a few of them out loud, but let's see. His name is... What is his name? Oh, Tony Goldmark? Anyway, well, nerds, I did it. Took me a global pandemic and a quarantine, but I did it. I figured out the precise chronological order of all the MCU movies so far by scene. I'm out of my mind. You're welcome. So, number 1, prologue of Thor. I'll just read out a few, but prologue of Thor, The Dark World. Stop at 3:45. And then, number 2, flashback sequence of Thor Ragnarok. Start at 1:19:13. Stop at 1:19:54. Second prologue of Thor. Start at 3:20. Stop at 7:34. So... you could literally watch everything in the exact order that you and your fiance would. Like, if you really wanted to watch it and enjoy it like that, this is your guide.
See, I don't know. I don't want to watch that way. I want to watch in the way where like the movies are getting bigger and bigger as they go, and I think that's like how they released, right? So
yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if somebody actually spliced all the scenes together, and then you could watch it that way.
That's the next thing. Somebody goes the next step further and just edits it all for us.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought, it just reminded me of that.
All right, well, and the last thing I got to say about the act is the first time we see the Hulk, it's all in that dark lighting, and it's really hard to really see him. But when you do see him, there's something off about the Hulk. I don't really know what it is, but I think it's his hair. I've been really thinking about this, and I think why he seems weird is his hair. It just seems weird to me.
Like a mop?
Yeah, it's like it's too long, and it comes down too much across his face. It's like in his eyes, almost like an emo Hulk, you know? I think it's because we know later on that Hulk has like shorter-ish hair. So it's like, it just seems weird. I don't know. It's kind of like, and it kind of waves a bit as he like, it's like he's wearing some kind of toupee or something. It's very strange.
I think what kind of bothers me about it, or maybe what I take from that first reveal, and I put that in air quotes because it's really not a reveal. No. Right? Like you said, it's all in shadows. Yeah, we see some of his limbs, and then eventually we see his face. But it's like, he reminds me of Pennywise, just like chilling under the sidewalk, like in a sewer in the darkness. Like you see a portion of him, and then he slowly backs away. Yeah. Or it's like what's that GIF of like Homer Simpson when he just like melts into the bush? Oh yeah. I don't know. It just reminds something about it is just so unlike what we expect.
Well, the Hulk is supposed to be like just like a ball of rage, right? So I just kind of expect him to go flying around, blowing stuff up. And I know they were going for like a more like anti-hero kind of vibe there, but it doesn't work with the Hulk. He's just make him go crazy. That's all we want to see.
Yeah, and like I said, because this is our first glimpse of him where we don't see him as a whole. We're kind of stripped of getting the satisfaction of like he busts loose and just like, you know. Like there's just carnage everywhere because of him. Yeah. What we see, like, sure, we see like a whole bunch of like he throws parts of the warehouse like at the commandos. He throws the commandos, and then he pushes this giant like tank across the whole warehouse like a train. It's just a lot of things that are like, okay, great, like we know he has this destructive power. but we're seeing this happen from the dark. So
Yeah.
like, what is it that you want us to take from this? That he's just a guy that does this from the shadows? Is he shy? Is that why he's doing this? Like, what is it?
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. But anyways, after that, we do get into where it turns into more of like a Hulk movie, I'd say. And we move into Act 2, which I call Hulk versus Super Blonsky.
I call it the Lost Hulk.
What is it like when it happens? What do you experience?
Remember those experiments we volunteered for at Harvard? Those induced hallucination? It's a lot like that, just 1,000 times amplified. It's like someone poured a liter of acid into my brain.
Do you remember anything?
Just fragments, images. There's too much noise. I can never derive anything out of it.
But then it's still you inside of it.
No, it's not.
I don't know. In the cave, I really felt like it knew me. Maybe your mind is in there. It's just overcharged and can't process what's happening.
I don't want to control it. I want to get rid of it.
Again, there's not much to work with. That's about the only scenes I could deal with. There's not much chemistry between these two characters, and that's kind of my theme here for Act 2. But these two characters don't really pop on screen for me. That scene at least it was kind of decent, I guess, for her trying to be a motivation for him. But man, they just don't seem to play well together. Their lines are awkward.
Yeah, I was gonna mention earlier because you talked about not like we don't build up sympathy or something to do with sympathy, and I find that maybe the reason why we're lacking building some sort of connection to Bruce and feeling some sympathy for him being in the situation is because we don't really get good interactions between him and Betty Ross.
Yeah.
Right? Like he finds her and then
it's such an awkward way he finds her too. Just like,
yeah.
Well, he sees her at the university and she's got that boyfriend or whatever, but like that pizzeria thing is...
It's such a random, specific thing, like scene to like... Yeah, it's like I think you said in the Iron Man episode that this happenstance is too
coincidental.
It's
to be realistic.
It's too perfect.
Oh yeah, exactly.
It's just too perfect. Like why? Yeah.
Yeah, she just happens to be in that pizzeria. He just happens to walk through the door at that moment, and then she's just so awful. Like, I like Liv Tyler in Lord of the Rings, but I hate her in this. Like, she just like starts walking like a zombie off towards the door, and like the boyfriend doesn't say anything. He just kind of watches his girlfriend just kind of walking away, and she walks outside, and then the rain is like, Bruce.
Yeah.
It's so dumb.
Yeah.
And then he's just hiding behind like a dumpster. Oh my gosh. My fiance's also like, why doesn't he just talk to her? And I was like, well, he doesn't want to get close because of her father. And then my fiance's like, wait, what? And like, she didn't even realize like her father was General Ross and all that. But even that, she's just like, oh, okay. It's like, then why is he near her anyways? Then like, it's like, I don't know. Like, I can't defend this movie.
Too many questions, not enough answers.
Yeah. Apparently, Liv Tyler accepted this role without even reading the script at all. She just kind of went, yeah, I'll take it. I didn't read it. I honestly think she just wanted to get close with Edward Norton. Apparently, they would spend a lot of hours rehearsing their character and figuring out, what their characters' backstories were and what they do in their spare time. I was like, okay, maybe that's what actors do a lot, maybe. But I have a feeling they're just trying to make this movie better than it really is.
Yeah, I guess so. So I wanted to mention that in this act, we start to get a little bit more sense of the the motivation behind General Ross and why he's getting Blonsky to go after Bruce, and then we find out more about what Bruce was actually involved in pre-Hulk, that he was part of all this testing and researching on gamma radiation resistance. And so and also, so this is kind of to allude to Iron Man, is that he at this point, like, he's not, or up until that point, like, he didn't think he was doing it for it to be weaponized. He just thought it was for the sake of more of like a defensive thing to resist radiation, as opposed to using it to improve soldiers and put them off into war, kind of thing, right? So I find that there's kind of a similarity with Tony Stark when he starts building Mark II.
Right.
Or is it Mark 3? I can't remember. But he's working on his glove, and then he gets really mad because he hears about all the deaths and stuff caused by
and he shoots the
and he shoots it, and he realizes like, oh, it can be a weapon, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like there are at least some parallels there that
that's true.
At least that what shows that he is why he should be the good guy, because he's trying to do something that he thinks will actually benefit people. He's not trying to do it because it's a weapon. It's just it happens to be that was puppeteered again, not by him. And same thing with Tony. It wasn't all puppeteered by him. It was puppeteered by Obadiah / Jedediah.
Jebediah. I was going to call General Ross General Jebediah in this.
Jebediah Ross.
Yeah, you're right. And we do get to hear more about the motivation behind Ross. We also get to understand a little bit more about Blonsky and that he wants to take on, like you said earlier, the super soldier serum, connecting it with Captain Marvel, which is a little bit interesting. My fiance liked that. We really liked the Captain Marvel movie, so she was excited to see, the serum used in something else. So when we do get to that kind of fight scene out in the grounds, that's out in the university campus there.
Oh wait, just before you mention that.
Oh yeah.
Because what I want to say next will lead into that, but just before that, we get our quote unquote second reveal of the Hulk, right? So, you're talking about the fight that happens out in like in front of the school or whatever, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, what I mean by a reveal is that, like or maybe I should say we get our second transformation. That's almost like it's supposed to be another reveal of the Hulk, like revealing like what he really is like, but. We don't get to see the transformation yet again. The first one was in the dark. This one is in a bunch of clouds.
Right, in the
we
smoke
see
bomb.
that he's raging out,
Yeah.
and then his eyes go green just before he looks like he passes out,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden he's the Hulk. So it's just like, okay, smoke and mirrors, Hulk.
Yeah, I know. And actually, that's like a really good point. You never see like full body transformation, which is what we really want to see. And I do like the subtle thing. I do like how he's looking at her. And it's kind of when she gets tackled a little bit or hit a little bit, that's when he starts to go a little bit crazy and anxious. I like that moment. I really like the whole Beauty and the Beast thing that they're going for, the King Kong stuff in this movie. I love that whole, like, she's the motivation, she's the trigger. And then when harm comes to her, like, that triggers him to turn to the Hulk. If they played that up more, we would have had a much better movie for sure. But yeah, you're right. And then he transforms in that smoke thing. It's weird too. General Ross in this scene is very just kind of, I don't know. Again, I don't know how else to say it, but just one dimensional. Like it's there. Like this whole scene here is pretty much just for the audience to see what the Hulk can withstand and what might be a weakness for him. That's really all the scene is. It's not really to do anything else because none of the characters have good motivation. General Ross is like, shoot it with bullets. Just keep shooting it with bullets, and like he turns into a Hulk, and then bullets clearly do nothing. They're just bouncing off of him. So the audience goes, "Oh, cool! He's like bulletproof." And then General Ross is like, more bullets. When that doesn't work, they're like, send in the fast guy. And the fast guy, what does he do? He runs up to him and starts using his handgun. And just shooting him with the handgun. It's like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, oh.
But I mean, they also, like, they knew that it wasn't going to work, I think. They were just trying to get him angry enough so that they could draw him over to what they really wanted to do with him, right?
I did like that. I thought it was unique when they had Blonsky running and the Hulk chasing him. I thought that was cool. It was like a lure, and that worked. It was interesting. And then when they had, was it sound waves they were using against him?
Yeah, pretty much. Like really supersonic waves, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird sound things in this movie, but that was strange. I don't know if that's even possible in real life, but that was strange. But if it works, cool. But I feel like if they can harness that and utilize that against the Hulk, you'd really be able to damage him. Like if you had like headphones that did that, and then like they shot out of the headphones into his ears, like I feel like you could really hurt him.
Yeah, definitely. But I guess I kind of like that. That's what they had to use, what they had to utilize in order to kind of stop him. It's not something that's physical. It's something that the Hulk can't fight.
Yes.
Like not physically. I mean, he can resist, right? As like as like somebody resists gravity. It's just that it's so much more immense that only the Hulk is able to withstand that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't find the fight scene all that interesting, or the whole fight sequence all that interesting. It's just a lot of things exploding and blowing up. Then the Blonsky fight is kind of dumb because you just don't think he's going to win even with the super soldier serum, and he clearly doesn't win. But I do love that punch at the end. That is really gruesome and brutal.
Oh, the kick. Yeah, he just kicks him straight in the chest.
Yeah, that's insane. But I love seeing it because it really makes the Loki hit in Avengers make a bit more sense. The Loki one
Yeah.
is just like he's a god, so you punch him, he does go flying, he goes through a wall or whatever, but he's fine. But you do it to a human, it's like
Oh no,
he's
sorry.
dead.
The Hulk punch was actually when he punches Thor. But he takes
Oh,
Loki's
you're right.
legs
You're right.
and
Yeah,
slams
yeah.
him back
to
and
Loki,
forth.
you're right. He slams him
Yeah.
back and forth, and then he punches Thor. Yeah, two gods.
Yeah.
But actually,
Beauty
it makes me
god.
wonder if the Hulk was to punch or kick Captain America. I wonder if he'd go flying the same way that Blonsky did. I wonder.
I don't think so because I think that's a super soldier serum that worked
Right.
in the way that it was intended to. Whereas I think we know that the one that we get for Emil Blonsky is not that it's defective, but it's still a work in progress. Well, it's an abomination. I think later on because he tries to do something right.
It mixes in with the Hulk. Yeah.
Yeah, but this one is like we find out later that there's a whole bunch of test subjects because they never really got it right.
Right.
And I'm not even sure if they can consider the Hulk like the serum that worked on the Hulk right. You know,
That's
like
true,
not necessarily
yeah.
what they were going for, right? But the one that worked for Captain America, that one was the one that actually worked.
Right.
So I feel like his body is, because of that, his body is more meant to take that kind of damage. But I mean, you know, these kind of things, like we just have to say like, okay, in this movie, this just how it is.
Yeah.
And you know, like, well, because eventually in Endgame, when we see Captain America fighting Thanos, like
Yeah.
Thanos takes down the Hulk like nothing.
True.
Thanos punches Captain America and he still gets back up, right?
That's true.
So
That's a good point. That's actually a really good point. Yeah.
yeah, and then in this one, there's a scene later on in the third act when with the Hulk where he hits Dr. Samuel Stern or something.
Yeah.
But Sam is fine, and he's not completely hulked out, but still, like, there are these moments that we kind of just have to forgive. I think.
The movie did it because the movie needed to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's also at the end there's a big explosion in the scene and the Hulk is kind of holding Liv Tyler there, and it's my fiance's like, she's like, why is he not like getting her away from the smoke or the fire or anything? He's just kind of like holding her in the middle of fire and smoke, and like she's not gonna be able to breathe very well, so he's just kind of cradling her as if he's protecting her. It was like that's a very bad environment for her. Please get her out of that.
Yeah.
And then they go off to the Rock and they have their little King Kong moment there, which is weird. CGI looks weird when it's rainy like that, and the Hulk's all shiny like an action figure. It was a very weird moment.
I thought about it too, and I'm like, why are they making his skin look all leathery? But you know, I think that's okay, just because his skin has mutated to an extent, and even if it were a human like naked human like skin getting wet, it would also be kind of shiny. It's just that I think what makes it really weird looking is because he's sitting next to Betty Ross, who isn't, I mean, like, she's not noticeably wet, and so the shading on her is like so dark compared to, like, he is so
He's
almost
glossy.
so like vibrant. He's glossy,
So
but
glossy.
he pops out so much in the
Yeah.
dark, which is I think that is
It's weird.
kind of weird.
They did the same thing in the 2003 one too, and I don't know. They should just keep the Hulk out of the rain because I don't think he looks good in the rain. Or they,
Actually, that's a good point.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a weird thing. But whatever. I mean, that's not even the worst parts of this act. The worst part is really just Betty and Bruce, and like the next scenes to play out, their whole like love story kind of moments where they're just kind of on the run, and they have this like weird joke where like she's like what should I take or whatever, and he's like, you can't take anything in your purse, and he like, you know, dumps the contents of her purse on the bed or whatever. She's like, you can't take any of this. She's like, can I take my lipstick? And he's like, well, you can take your lipstick. She's like, can I take this? And he's like,
Like
you
my
can take
comb
that
or something?
And then he's pretty much like, you just can't take your phone. I'm like, is this supposed to be humor? Like, none of this is funny. It's just weird lines of dialogue, and these two actors don't really know if they're laughing or if they're trying to come across as people. Like,
Yeah. Also, okay, I don't know if it's because of where we are now. You know, like I think the progression of the film industry is that it kind of has to go with, or like, it has to go with what they think the audience already knows by now. So, for example, they used to say electromagnetic pulse in movies and TV shows all the time. Now they just say EMP. Because they assume everybody's used to it and knows.
Yes.
In this, like, it's 2008. I can't remember exactly how it was back then, but for her to not be cognizant of the things that track people,
Yeah.
I find is a little bit weird. Like, it's almost like they're trying to really make her seem like she has absolutely no idea. Like, she's completely detached from her father, the general of the military,
Yeah.
who would probably be very inclined to knowing all these things, and
For sure.
because of their separation, she just knows nothing. But I think it's just a bit much for her to just be so out of
Ditzy?
loop with
She
stuff.
she comes off as very ditzy.
I get a little bit
Because she
does,
doesn't
yeah.
know the phone stuff, like you said. And you're right. As being the daughter of a general, I feel like she would understand that technology. The other thing is too. Earlier on in the film, she was like, "Why don't we go to the general?" And then, like, it's almost like Edward Norton like looks at her for a second. It's like, you realize why that would be a bad idea, right? Like, it's so weird. Like, I don't get whoever wrote Betty did not know how to write a character in this, like a side companion character. Like Pepper Potts, like holds up Tony Stark. She helps him, like just as much as he helps her, she helps him with that line of dialogue, like, "You're the only one I have." And then she also says, "You're the only one I have." You know, it's like, it's genius. It's perfect. In this movie, what does Betty do for him?
Yeah.
She's just, she even tries to sleep with him at that one moment. He's like, "I can't get too excited." Like,
Right, yeah.
she tries to make like a little joke, like not even a little excited. It's like, the man can turn into the Hulk.
Yeah,
Like,
the man will crush you
yeah.
by accident and on purpose.
Are you listening? Like, it's freaking weird.
Yeah, it's off.
And I don't like the purple pants joke. I don't understand it. My fiance actually liked it. She thinks I'm being too harsh, but I thought the purple pants joke was way too weird. Like, why did she buy the specific pair of purple stretchy pants if not for the reference of the Hulk?
I think, well, you know what, I think that's okay. It's like, it's such a small thing, and I think really that's definitely for the people who know the Hulk,
Yeah.
who have seen the Hulk, because that's just what he wears. He's Barney reversed. He's
True.
He's green mainly with like a little purple pants, purple shorts, and I'm trying to think of when else we would have seen that in some of the MCU movies. But I know that we see that in the Netflix Marvel show, Luke Cage, because Luke Cage as Power Man, he has this like gold purple spandex outfit that he wears from like the 70s or something. And then when he I think there's kind of like this flashback when he like busts loose out of prison or something, and all he could find were like gold, like some sort of like gold spandex shirt and, like, and purple pants, right? So I think it's okay to just like call on those once in a while. Like,
well, I'm gonna reference this and call this my Iron Man cell phone reference. It's the same as in Iron Man 1 where they play the cell phone ring of the Iron Man theme song. This is just something where they do this a lot more in the older films, but they do it obviously in all the films, so they reference like something from the classic media. But this is my Iron Man cell phone moment for the Incredible Hulk, is him with the purple pants. So,
okay, yeah, that's fine.
I'll give it the pass.
Sure.
So that's Act 2. There's a bit of fighting with Super Blonsky. There's a bit more of the romance between him and Betty Ross and trying to understand these characters, but it's awkward. But that's about all I got for Act 2. Do you have anything else you want to say about that?
Let's see. It was like this. What was I writing? Purple pants? Nope. It was like this huge. Oh, right. Okay, so I wanted to just comment on, I think, just pretty much at the end of Act 2 or transitioning into Act 3 when they do the interviews with people on the street, and then this random like teen or young adult guy is like, it was like this huge like Hulk. And so, yeah, right. And now he is dubbed.
Now he's the Hulk. Now when soldiers look at him in the street, they'll go, "It's the Hulk!"
It's, yeah. Like,
it's just suddenly his name. It's so weird. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, we talked about this before. Like, they're going to throw in stuff like that, just like the purple pants. They're just going to throw stuff like that in just to make some sort of references, but also establishments to an extent. Like, I think this one could have been done better because it just doesn't seem like the kind of thing you would hear somebody say,
no,
like in an interview randomly on the street, like, "Oh, he was like this big Hulk." No, you would probably say something like, "Man, he was this big, huge freak."
Yeah,
big green monster. I don't know what the heck he was. Like,
yeah, like an alien or something, right? Like,
yeah. So if you're gonna bring reference to it, I think like they could have found a better way, but it's such a small thing that like whatever, Yeah.
All right, well, let's move into the last act, which is Hulk versus Abomination Blonsky.
Nice. I just called mine Emil is pissed.
Straightforward. If we overshoot this by even the smallest integer, we're dealing with concentrations with extraordinary levels of toxicity.
You mean it could kill him?
Kill him? Yeah, I should say so.
You should know that there's a flip side to this too. If we miss on the low side, if we induce me and it fails, this will be very dangerous for you.
I've always been more curious than cautious, and that served me pretty well.
This guy, Mr. Blue. We finally get a reveal on Mr. Blue, the guy he's been emailing this whole movie. And also, what weird messages he sends to Mr. Blue. He's so obvious about it. Hey, Mr. Blue, it's the Hulk again. I just...
it's the Hulk.
The last urine sample I sent you, it's very green. Is that normal?
It's help, please. Thanks.
Did you get a weird, like, Mr. Fantastic vibe from this guy? I felt like there was a draft of this movie where this guy was supposed to be Mr. Fantastic. He's in the middle of New York City. He seems to be fairly like a genius. He had a numbered blue shirt on the back of him, and it said like 23 in it, but he's also called Mr. Blue. And I was like, this would have been a really good Mr. Fantastic moment if they could have, like, if this movie was made today, that guy would have been Mr. Fantastic for sure.
I guess so, but I wonder if okay, so I don't know the character that well, but Samuel Stearns in the comics is a character called the Leader. And so I wonder, and like, yeah, I don't know, actually I really don't know anything about this character. I'm just reading on Wikipedia now, but I wonder if maybe his character was supposed to be sort of like Mr. Fantastic-esque kind of persona where I mean, because we see this later on, his brain starts to swell a little bit from the open wound.
Yeah.
But I think maybe there's some sort of association with his I expect that if he's got a big head, it's because he's really smart or something. And Mr. Fantastic is also like a super smart guy.
Yeah.
And maybe he lets it get to his head, no pun intended. Yeah, so maybe there's a reason why they made him appear like that, and it's because they just wanted to try to make more of an association of whatever the character, the Leader, is supposed to be. Super intelligent entity who names himself the Leader, embarking on a career of crime.
You know, and maybe if this movie did really, really well, maybe they would have gone that direction. It's a weird way to kind of introduce your villain like this, but they cut away in such an awkward moment where it's like hard to know what they were even trying to say. Like, you kind of sort of see the brain morphing, and you're like, oh, whoa, is he alive? Oh, is his brain changed? And then it just cuts. You know,
and then also we see a glimpse of a smile.
Yeah.
Like, oh, is he enjoying it? What does he feel? Like, what is he getting from this? Like, is his head going to Hulk out, but just his head? Like, there's a lot of things we can infer.
Only when he gets angry, he's going to be really like
just
the head just swells.
The head gets green, but the rest of his body just stays regular, skin nude.
Yeah.
It's like we can infer a lot of stuff, but then it's just not clear. But
yeah.
Again, I think it's just meant to be was one of those teases that's supposed to be for like, hey, by the way, this is something that could happen on later on down the road if we get to it.
It's a weird thing, but I did kind of like when he's getting the operation done by Mr. Blue and he's on the table and all that. I liked the blood getting expelled from him, or like the Hulk blood kind of thing getting expelled from him. It's being like very green. I loved the green look of that, and then the purple vials that were there. It's just a small thing, but I actually really liked that like color scheme there that was happening. I just thought that was really cool how they did that. I thought the scene was kind of dumb. I actually really didn't like the CGI when he was half transforming. He just looked really awkward. But maybe that's why they didn't do a full body transformation in this movie. But other than that, I liked it was kind of like popping a zit or something like that. He was just like trying to squeeze out the Hulk kind of thing, and it was like going into these little tubes.
I guess a little bit, yeah. And okay, so this is our third official transformation of the Hulk, and one where we actually, in a way, see him transform completely from human to Hulk, because they have to get to the full maximum Hulk before he injects the whatever stuff to like make him, to cure him, right?
Yeah.
So we actually see him all the way transform to the Hulk and then come back to being a human. So I have a big problem with this and the set of transformations that they've had, and I feel bad for knocking this movie so much. Like, I want to find some good things about it, but it's really difficult because they keep pulling me along. Like, hey, okay, we're gonna get the Hulk. Oh, but no, you're not.
Yeah.
Oh, here we're gonna get to see a transformation. Nope, not this time.
Yeah.
But you get to see him fight a little bit in the daylight. Thank you. And now, third time, we get this transformation. And then he goes back to being a human. So we don't get the satisfaction of seeing him Hulk out and really Hulk out.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it makes me very dissatisfied.
Exactly. It's like you're watching a superhero film and it's trying to be like a college art project or something. It's going more into like, well, how does Hulk feel today? When really we're like, we came here to watch a big green guy destroy a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. It's I guess I could call it like in the Tobey Maguire movie when he first makes his Spider-Man outfit, but he's the human spider. But it's basically like a red hoodie and blue pants or whatever. But it's leading up to this big reveal, and I think that one works because it's just they make it out to be like really funny.
Yeah.
Like we're kind of let down in a way that we don't get to see like, oh, Spider-Man as the Spider-Man costume that's on like the movie posters, right? We see the human spider in like rag clothes, but it works for that, but it doesn't work for the Hulk because almost like the essence of him becoming the Hulk is the reason. Or it's the thing that prompts him to transform in the first place. Mm-hmm. So, and like that's such a big thing for the Hulk, and we're not getting it. So, yeah.
Well, we get the return of Blonsky. We get Blonsky jumping into the apartment to go off and try to Hulkify. He actually wants to see the Hulk, so you're right. We kind of get to see more of his character development here because he's like, I want to see like bring him out. I want to fight him, kind of thing. So he obviously wants like to be challenged.
Yeah,
I guess, so we're sort of seeing his personality there, sort of. But this is weird when they imprison Bruce Banner and they take him away in the helicopter, and then it's like he's a prisoner, but they have like random like handcuffs on him, and he's being treated like the same as the general. He's just sitting in the helicopter with the general and the general's daughter and like 2 guards. And I'm like, isn't he like a wanted criminal? Like for like it's just weird that he's like this crazy criminal apparently, and he's handcuffed with the tiniest little handcuffs, even though he's like the Hulk apparently. And
it's honor system. They're just trusting him.
But it's just really weird. I was like, isn't he like? Shouldn't he be in some kind of like security van or something, and like being taken to a bunker somewhere? Like, it's very weird. He's just in the same helicopter as the general's daughter at this moment. It's like, that's a danger. Okay.
Oh, you know what? And this reminds me. So like, it's just the idea of him being contained. So prior to all this, it's when he and Betty Ross are going to meet.
Oh, they're in New York City.
Stearns.
Yeah.
And then they talk about taking the subway, and he's like, me in a metal tube underground, and he's talking about just the idea of the Hulk being contained underground with a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
And then it reminds me of the Avengers when they get on the helicarrier.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, they want to put me in a pressurized thing like underwater, and I feel like that line, now that I think about it, was almost to like erase the fact, like I feel like it was just another attempt to erase the 2008 Hulk. Right, because it's like the same kind of line, the same kind of concept. Like he's questioning the same thing. You want to contain me in this thing that doesn't seem safe because I'm still around all these people.
Yeah.
But now that we're in the Avengers movie, let's do it again so that this is the one that lasts. This is the one that we want.
And it's a good reminder to the audience that like he's a danger. He should be on his own because he's a danger to anyone he's around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No,
anyway, sorry, I had to backtrack for that.
But it's weird how he says it there with the subway, but for some reason being in a helicopter with Betty Ross and General Ross like doesn't come up once. He's kind of like a moody boyfriend in this movie. And like you almost feel for Ross in this movie a little bit.
Poor Ross.
But after what's his face, Blonsky ends up getting the serum. He says like, give me the Hulk serum, and becomes Abomination, which again they throw
mixture
in, like,
could be in an abomination.
Exactly, they throw in that line. It's like, oh, okay, all right. There's our villain's name drop line here. Very much like the Ironmonger line, but
we're not ironmongers.
Tony could build this in a cave
with a box of scraps.
Good old Jebediah. So anyways, so then he goes off and he becomes the Abomination. He's disgusting. We mentioned it before. He looks gross. The vertebrae all sticking out. He's just a crazy looking thing. I think they did a pretty good job in the villain design. The CG is a little weird, but I don't want to fault it for that because it is older. But the actual character design, I think, is pretty interesting. They do a pretty good job with that.
I like the protrusions from his joints, like his knees and his elbows.
Yeah.
It's like very Doomsday-esque, but
that's true. Yeah.
But I think it's fine because it's not like covering his whole body, right? It's just like a couple places. Actually, no, it's not even just his knee. Like even his the back of his foot or like behind his shin, he's got some sort of weird upper protrusion.
Yeah, he's got a few odd ones there.
Yeah,
and
but that's fine. That makes sense. As the Abomination, he's gonna have things that just don't look right.
Yeah.
Right. So. Yeah.
And before the battle ensues between him and the Hulk too, I was noting that I really enjoyed another movie taking place in New York City. I was like, it's really interesting that we're like back in Manhattan. We're like in New York City here. I was like, we don't see that as much in the Marvel movies anymore. Like, it doesn't feel like we're in New York unless you're like Spider-Man swinging around with pizzas or something, or you're like some of the Netflix Marvel heroes. but we don't really feel
Right.
like we're in New York all that often. And this one, I was like, oh, we're right in New York again. Like, here's the New York taxi cab going by. Like, that's the stuff I like to see. And it's really interesting to me. So I enjoyed that. But then we get Bruce Banner needs to be the Hulk. Here you go. You get your big transformation. Number 4, jumping out of the helicopter.
Number 4. And so to me, this is another... this is not a call to anger. This is a call to Thor Ragnarok. Well, I guess Thor Ragnarok is a call back to this.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, like in Thor Ragnarok, he jumps off. He jumps out of the whatever like jet.
Yeah.
To jump onto like the Bifrost Bridge.
Yeah.
And he's just hoping that he's gonna turn into the Hulk. And I feel like that one, like the one in Thor Ragnarok, that was probably one of the funniest moments.
That was genius. That's so good.
I'm so glad that they did it that way.
Yeah.
Even though like in a realism aspect, it just doesn't make sense because he's a human body that just flops like thousands of feet, and still he turns into the Hulk. But in this one, he's hoping that he's gonna do it. He goes through the ground, but the ground is so like the crumbled silhouette is definitely like the size of the Hulk, I think. So it wasn't the human body that went through, because otherwise that'd be super weird if the human body went through like Bruce Banner's body.
Oh, good point. Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense.
Like that would not make sense for it to go
No.
through the ground. So that means he must have had to transform just
He
before.
would have like crushed all
hitting
his
the ground,
bones, and then the Hulk serum would have kicked in. It would have been a Hulked mess.
Yeah, maybe. And I guess we also don't really know what happens if Bruce Banner has been knocked out as the human and then transforms into the Hulk.
True.
Somehow after, which seems like it'd be very difficult unless in his coma or in his dreams he's getting really angry or something.
Yeah, that's weird. I never really thought about that. He must have turned into the Hulk just before smashing to the ground, I guess.
Maybe, yeah.
Whatever.
I don't know.
But then he pops out of the ground. You know, big old Hulky. You get your Hulk hero shot.
Yep. Again, like more or less in the dark, but with some
kind of moody lighting,
fire.
and that hair is just blowing around, looking weird.
Yeah.
Well, and then they fight, and I don't have much to say about their fight. It is a weird street fight. I don't know. It's not very exciting. It's hard to tell who's who a lot of the time, and it's a weird street fight. You know, they grab like chains and stuff, and they're like fighting each other. It seems like a UFC fight almost or something. It's very awkward.
Yeah, and I think what doesn't work is the slow-mos that they just put into some of the sequences, because I find that as they, I don't know, you would think that maybe slowing things down would really improve or increase the impact of their blows, because they're just so huge. Like, you think that it would supplement it or complement it, but I find that it was taking away from their throws at each other, just because they're really big but they're also really quick. So I find that if we're losing some of their animosity and their energy in their speed because of the slow-mo, then I think we're losing feeling how big those punches and stuff are. Like, the first one is they run at each other, and then the Abomination spears the Hulk, right?
Yeah.
But there's like that instance of slow-mo where like who's gonna hit, oh, and then he gets speared.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I just find they're a little bit unnecessary, and they kind of do take away. I find the fight as a whole, it's somewhat entertaining. Like, I'm kind of back and forth with it. I liked that they did the whole the big Hulk clap kind of thing. Like, he does that in the Marvel arcade games. Like,
I figured that was one of his moves. It seemed like a signature Hulk thing.
Yeah.
It's weird, but it's a signature Hulk thing, I guess.
It's kind of, it's weird for him to just think about that.
Yeah.
But I guess using the idea of sound waves, like, he was hit by that earlier, so I guess he had some sort of notion that like this works to some extent, but to apply it in this way, it's kind of weird. But I like to think that he's like the smart Hulk, and the Abomination, that's why I think a UFC fighter would have been a good actor for this. Like, the Abomination is just like the strength Hulk, but he's like the smart Hulk, and that's why I like to think the clap thing is something that only like a genius could have thought of. Right. But that's just me really trying to fight for this movie. If you think about it, the whole General Ross thing makes no sense at all. I mean, again, he's got his daughter in a helicopter and he's chasing this thing. And he just keeps saying like, shoot it, blast it with whatever, fight the gray one, save the green one, kind of thing. It's like, your daughter's in the helicopter. I know.
Like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah.
And like, that's fine if you want to make his character like he said, Captain Ahab, like he's so direct onto the white whale. But if you're gonna do that, maybe have your daughter say something like, "Daddy, like let's get out of here, let's go safe," and then he's like, "No," and like pushes her aside or something like that. Make him look more villainous for that. But don't just do it and don't say why you're doing it. It just makes him seem really weird. It makes the whole movie seem like he doesn't know what it's doing, you know?
Right.
Like give Liv Tyler a voice there maybe instead of just going along with whatever the movie is doing for her. No wonder she didn't read the script. She just kind of sits there the whole time and just goes with the movie.
Yeah, I guess with General Ross, it's almost like they want to go for somewhat of a ruthless character, but we don't get whatever elements that we would need to actually portray ruthlessness, right?
Yeah.
Like he doesn't, like, he cares enough for his daughter to try to keep her safe, but he's not really doing a good job of it.
Not at all.
It's not that he just doesn't care about her safety. It's just that he is not doing a good job, right?
And in the fight scene with the Hulk and Abomination, I do like the chains. He uses the chains to choke him. I like that because it reminds me of King Kong. That's about the only reason why I like it, though, because in King Kong, they use the chains to choke the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that element.
I like it, too, because it's... and it'll lead into when he finally defeats him and puts his foot on top of him. But the chain, to me, it's almost like he's taming him.
Yes.
And I think that there's a good symbolism there. Like it's the bigger beast taming the smaller, weaker beast.
Exactly. Like the strength wins in the end or something. I do like the dominance, I guess. I like that. I don't like the Hulk smash line.
Oh, thank you. I was just gonna say.
That's even worse than the purple pants when he just says Hulk smash. Like, why?
Do you have any last words? Hulk smash. Like,
why does he associate with Hulk already? Like, why does he think that's his name?
And he never talks about himself in third person.
It's so dumb. Like,
and also how the smash actually carries forward. Like he hits the ground and then the ground zigzags to precisely where the Abomination is.
Yeah.
He's never done we've never seen him practice this move before. It's weird for them to just throw that in there. Yeah. That I think maybe that last aspect, like with the whole clap and the smash, is just like, okay, like signature moves, just go. Just throw them in and then we'll make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awkward, it's heavy-handed. In the end, he puts his foot on the creature. And to make it worse, the battle scene's over, and then for some reason everyone just goes, "Okay, good, we're done. Everyone's great." Like I don't know where Abomination goes. Like for some reason everyone's just sort of like I think General Ross says something like, "Okay, like you better run now or something, Hulky, because everyone's gonna arrest you or something if you don't." And he like leaves, and then
runs away.
Then there's like women and children just kind of watching. There's like a police officer like watching. I would assume is Abomination's body on the ground. No one's keeping him there anymore. He's just kind of sitting there on the ground.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what? Like,
I guess we're left to assume that Hulk did enough damage to him that he just can't move, because like out of scene. I know it's really, it doesn't make sense. It's just like, so he puts his foot on his chest and then out of scene he kind of does this twist motion. So I guess I thought that was like a killing motion. I thought he like crushed his neck or something. But no, he's still alive after they zoom out. They pan out, and he's kind of just like, the Abomination is just like moving his head like, I'm stuck here. Yeah. But like, why are you stuck there?
General Ross is all like, good job, man. Like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know. Book him, Lou.
Maybe we're missing something. Maybe we're missing a lot of things, and that's why we just don't like this movie.
Then Hulk does some like, it's super like a Marvel. Sorry, it's a super like Spider-Man swinging at the end. I like to call this his Spider-Man ending swing / Dark Knight moment. Because he's like, it's the night and he's swinging from like building to building, like as if he's Spider-Man, and it's like where Tobey Maguire's about to come out with his narration, being like, I have to swing, I have to get away from the hall or something stupid, and then it's not only that, it's also Gary Oldman being like he's our Dark Knight. He's like, he's the one, he's the hero that we deserve or whatever. Like, it's very dumb, and I was like, man, they clearly watched better superhero movies and tried to emulate that at the end of this one.
Oh boy, yeah, I know what you mean.
And speaking of endings, we get him in Canada, in British Columbia.
Yeah.
Bella Coola.
Where is Bella Coola?
I don't know. I did not know that was a place in British Columbia. I've never heard of it, but he's there. And this was a weird ending that my fiance and I both, as soon as it happened, we just kind of looked at each other like, wait, what? Like, I didn't know what happened. I didn't understand what they were trying to tell me. But, like, he, like, is meditating, and the days without incident is like higher, but then it goes down to 0, and it just goes up to his eye, and his eye turns green.
Yeah, it's at like 30 or something. And I think I guess it's trying to imply that he's trying to control it. Like after 30 days,
Yeah, because he
he's trying
smiles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's happy. Like, yes, I did it.
But it's like it's so like he's like, look at the audience. He might as well have winked. Like it's so weird.
Yeah, it is very weird. I guess maybe that's the only way that they can kind of connect it to when we see Mark Ruffalo's the Hulk in the Avengers, because the first scene we see of him when we find out how he's able to stay like that, and his answer is, well, I guess later on we find out his answer is that
he's always
I'm always angry.
Yeah.
So I guess we just have to assume that at the end of the Incredible Hulk, he was angry, even though he seemed pretty focused and happy. Like he's meditating, right? That you don't. If you're in that posture, you're obviously trying to like calm yourself.
Yeah.
So it's weird for them to show that he's trying to anger himself, but in a focused anger. So then again, that still doesn't really make sense with the Hulk we see later on, because the Hulk we see in Mark Ruffalo, if he's always angry, then you'd think that there's some sort of sense of control, but he has no control when he hulks out in the Avengers, whereas we're left to think that in the Incredible Hulk, he focused and now he can control. At least he can have some sort of control, but it's just that connection is not there.
It's awkward. It feels very stumbly, and like it's older superhero movie kind of esque, but it's not a good movie kind of ending to me.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
Yeah.
And then we get to our. Sorry, go ahead.
So I just want to. I forgot. I wanted to mention this during the fight, which I really liked this aspect. So, the Abomination is using like his elbow or something, like the elbow joint spike bone to like dig into the Hulk. Later on, the Hulk takes that out of his arm. Like he pulls that bone out of the Abomination's arm and stabs the Abomination with it.
Oh, I don't think I noticed that.
And I think, I don't know, I think that was probably the best notion of the Hulk that I could think of in this movie, where there's like, it's not that he's like being a smart Bruce Banner character Hulk, you know, trying to be innovative, like, oh, how can I outsmart this being that's like super strong? And no, it's just like I'm just gonna reach for whatever I can find and use it. And the nearest thing to him is this bone sticking out, pulls it out and stabs him. And I thought, like, man, that is so cool. I mean, it's not cool in real life, but I mean, like, as seeing the Hulk in this moment, I think that was probably the coolest scene.
Actually, that reminds me too, I did forget to mention that the murder count in this movie was way higher than Iron Man. Like, the Hulk murders people like crazy, and like it's something the newer movies would totally address. They would make it so that they showed everyone getting out safe, so there's no question. But in this movie, it's like there's just explosions. Hulk blows stuff up. Like he doesn't care. Like he tosses a jeep. It's like okay, like he's killed people now. Much more than Tony did, and they're also innocent people. These are just government men, so he's just killing innocent people in this movie. But I just want to get that out of the way. He obviously murdered people in this movie. So we get to our after credit scene, but this is the only movie that it's not an after credit scene. It's actually just after the movie, and they just kind of tag it on at the end. I feel like they were maybe worried that people weren't going to stay after the credits, or maybe they're trying something different. I don't know, but they do a scene with General Ross drinking, and Tony Stark comes up to him to talk about the Avengers initiative, and that.
And you know the thing that he's drinking, it looked like the lime green drink that we see in the
I thought
warehouse.
so too. It was like a weird green. Like why? Why have him drink a green drink? Why not just have him drink a Scotch? Yeah. You don't need to have a green drink. Like
unless it's, our screens are just like the hue is off and it wasn't supposed to be green. But I don't know. I guess it's maybe it's just showing a defeated Ross. If you can't beat him, join him.
Yeah.
Right.
This scene was very underwhelming for me. I remember watching it being really excited in the theater because I was like, oh yeah, like here's our first connection between the two movies, and it was so just sort of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I guess that's cool. Like I remember I was so underwhelmed with this. I did not get excited about it. And now watching it, it almost means nothing. It's kind of cool to see Tony talking about it, but it should have been Nick Fury in my opinion. I don't see why Tony's talking to Ross. Unless Tony and Ross have a better relationship because of Stark Industries. Maybe. But
probably, yeah. But it is kind of weird though, because General Ross does talk about S.H.I.E.L.D. earlier in the movie, so you'd think that there's enough of a connection that if he's going to be approached by anybody, it would be Nick Fury or somebody else that works for Coulson. Yeah, exactly, like Coulson. They would probably make more sense, but I think I guess in order to show a little bit more flow in terms of who's going to be on board with this, like rather than having Nick Fury always be the one to gather people, because like, you know, he in the end we're going to see him try his best to unite them all in the Avengers. So maybe it's a little bit it's less impactful if we see him at the end sequence or post credit scene for every single movie leading up to the Avengers try to talk to somebody. That, and we already saw Agent Coulson talking a little bit to Pepper and also to Tony Stark at some point. So I feel like maybe we don't need to see him get too involved just yet. I think later on when we see him in the Avengers, I think we get enough of his character that okay, we'll talk about that later. But I guess like it's probably okay for Tony to be the one to come to General Ross, because it's showing at least some sort of direction that Tony wants to go. It's not just all Nick Fury, but Tony likes something about this team aspect.
Right.
We're not sure what it is yet, but he's on board. So if he can be the one to start stringing in new people, and then they string in more people or whatever, maybe it just adds to what we end up seeing later with Tony and how he really views being a part of a team and stuff like that.
That's true. And it does try to paint Tony as more of a leader and team player, which is interesting. So, yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. Leader aspect. Yeah.
Well, that is our movie structure here for The Incredible Hulk. Now I got a few post-film questions for you, Anth0z.
All right.
Anth0z, first thing here, what is your worst character in this movie?
Betty Ross. Hands down, Betty Ross.
Yeah, she's not interesting, is she? She doesn't pop on screen.
No, not at all.
I'd have to agree with you on that. I'm the same. Betty Ross.
Yeah, she just... It's almost like she doesn't have any motivation herself.
Yeah.
Like, if she might, like, decide to do one thing at some point, like... But it's not like there was... It doesn't seem like there was a big enough drive for her to... At least, okay, there might have been drive to initiate it, but afterwards, it just kind of fizzles.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah. And, like, apparently she was... Like I said, she was talking to Edward Norton about her character and what they would be doing in different scenes. I'm curious what those conversations were, because I want to know what Liv Tyler says that her character was doing, let's say, on a Sunday afternoon, because I can tell you it's probably nothing. Like, cause based on watching this movie, it seems like she was doing nothing on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Anth0z, what is your best character in this movie?
Okay. I might have to go with the guy at the lab who eats the pizza slice.
He just holds it up for a second.
And just holds it up. And okay, just so that I get this clear, did he do that because he was trying to hint to Bruce Banner that the password he's trying to log into is pizza? Because the asterisk he types 5. There's 5 asterisks.
Oh.
Pizza is 5 letters. So is that why he did it? Like, is that...
I think that I personally, I think that he is just some guy in the lab eating pizza. And it was like, yeah, good pizza. Oh, and also Bruce Banner is just guessing his girlfriend's password because his girlfriend is very predictable. It's Betty Ross. Come on, her password's probably like purse or something like.
Sure, all right. Anyway, I liked him. I think he was very true to his character. He seemed like the kind of guy who just doesn't care about stuff and enjoys pizza, and he's just doing his job. I
was watching a YouTube video and they were saying that Banner had bribed that guy with pizza so he could be in the lab at that time. Which I was like, I was like, that never came across. Like, that, if that's actually what happened, then that never came across to me. Like,
oh yeah, no, not at all.
So I don't know if that YouTube guy just made that up or if that's what was supposed to be the intention, but whatever.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Because that means he would have bribed. He bribed the security guy and he bribed that guy. I guess that's necessary. I don't know.
Right. All right.
So your best character?
Right. My best character, I would say. It's weird. I'd probably give it to Bruce Banner. Okay. I don't think he's amazing. I think he's got a lot of flaws in this movie, but there are some good moments, and Edward Norton does a good job in some scenes. It just, he flops around. He flip-flops a lot in this movie, but I do like some of the beginning. There's some really good character moments there. I do like some of his little isms when he's like clearly trying to think his plan through. But unfortunately, just some of the characters around him just make him then say stupid things and just do stupid things on screen. So I don't know. There's not many good characters in this movie at all, but he's got some good moments enough to be my favorite character.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's fair.
I want to point out that we missed the Stan Lee cameo, which is the old man dying.
Right. Yes. Yeah. In this cameo, he has grown from no dialogue to a one-word line.
Ah, yes.
Wow.
Yep.
That's all he says.
Yeah. It was an okay cameo. I mean, he dies in the cameo, so it was all right.
Wait, that is all he says, right? He just says "wow,"
Yeah.
right? And then he just drops.
Drops dead. That
Yeah.
was it. How does this movie rate as a piece of a bigger picture in the Marvel movie universe?
Ooh. I don't know. I don't know how to answer this. I'm not really sure.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much does it stand alone, and how much... 1 being, you don't need to worry about the Marvel Universe at all in this movie, and 10 being, you have to watch the Marvel Universe to even watch this movie.
I feel like there are enough connections that it feels like it is supposed to be part of a bigger picture, but I don't know if I'm only saying that because I've already seen the other movies and I know what they've referenced. So for example, the whole General Ross bringing up like World War II super soldier serum, right? Like that's something we end up seeing later on, but it still sounds to me like it's something that, and also because he's part of the military, and the military is like, they're always going to be involved in some form, right? Especially when it comes to new technology or weaponry. So,
Right.
And I can see how just knowing those things is enough to think that, okay, so there's probably something here that could be utilized later on, and it would be good to know. Like General Ross, like we see that he comes back later on.
Yeah.
And
one of the only returning characters.
Yeah, exactly. So I think like it's I don't know, what are your thoughts about it?
I'd give it a 5, exact no,
Yeah.
because just as much as you don't need to watch this movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in my opinion, it also needs to be connected to the Marvel Cinematic Universe to be a movie. I think it stands on like the stilts, the foundation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe to be a movie. So I honestly give it a 5, because it's like, without the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's not even a movie anymore. It's not even there. But with the Cinematic Universe, you still don't really even need to watch it. So
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You know what? The way I see this is, it's kind of like if I think about comics in terms of issues, arcs, and like full series, I would say like I almost feel like this is more of like it's pretty much an arc on its own. Whereas if I think about Iron Man, I would say Iron Man is like a really good solid 1 issue
Right.
comic. Not to say that it's short, and not to say that it's incomplete, but just that it's complete enough. The issue of like calling Iron Man an issue, I find that it's complete enough in its own sense that like we get a lot out of it, and then we still want to get more out of it in the next coming issues. But with the Hulk, I find that it's really just a complete arc on its own, and I'm like, okay, I'm done with whatever's happening here. Like maybe they can reference stuff later on, but I'm not as interested in seeing what this is like, what the next, if it were an issue on its own, I wouldn't be as interested to see, okay, what's the next issue.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a better way to put that question that I tried to put together, like when I thought of this question before, like how does it rate in terms of, so it's like, it's kind of thinking about how is like a comic versus an arc versus a series.
Right.
That might make more sense, but yeah.
Well, that is all we've got for The Incredible Hulk. So, final thoughts on the movie? It was not needed, unfortunately.
I'd say, yeah, it wasn't. I think think about if we had Avengers, but we didn't have any kind of Hulk movie before this, we probably could have done with some really good post-credit scenes.
Yeah.
That introduce them, kind of like how we see Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver later on in the post-credit scene, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It's almost like that could be enough, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not like Betty Ross or any kind of attachment comes up later on in the Avengers movies anyways, so... Right? So
we need a post-credit scene where Betty Ross buys that lipstick, I think. I think that would have been a post-credit scene in the movie.
And it's actually bugged.
Yeah.
it's trackable.
That would have been good.
She buys the one that's trackable. Yeah.
Okay, well, everyone listening, thank you so much for listening to this podcast, and be sure to check out our next Marvel Marathon episode, which will be Iron Man 2. I can't believe that. That's so weird to me. I honestly thought it was Thor, but it goes to Iron Man 2 next.
Yes.
Like, what?
Already.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
I'm kind of excited. because I remember liking Iron Man 2, so.
Hulk crash.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye.